Let's share again. There we go. All right. So from a WordPress news and events, it's a little bit light. Obviously, it's summertime. Not a lot of big stuff happening. But in case you missed it, in case you blinked and missed it, on July 12th, there was a maintenance release that got pushed out. For a lot of people, you may have got this updated automatically through your host. So it's WordPress 6.0.1. To be honest, these maintenance releases, it's a lot of bug fixes in there. There's fixes to WordPress core, and then there's also bug fixes to the block editor. You can do a search on WordPress.org and just search for 6.0.1 or follow this link if you're interested to see what's in it. It looked like some really, I didn't see anything really significant to call out, but for these kind of releases, it's always good to just keep up with them. Obviously, all the caveats apply in terms of don't do this directly on a production site, try on the staging site first if you can, but this one seems like fairly harmless. So that's 6.0.1, but confusingly 6.1 is really the next significant, I'd say, WordPress upgrade, and that's coming up later this year. I don't think they've really set a firm date on that, but they do, excuse me, they do have some, at least, general scope of what's going to be in that release. So this was from the WordPress.org website, according to the release leader. So they say a lot of it's going to be refining experiences that they introduced in 5.9 and 6.0. Again, weaving the various flows. Hopefully that means I bolded these things. I'm hoping like more coherent and fulfilling flows. As we talked before about that full site editing, I don't think it's very coherent right now. Closing some gaps in functionality and looking towards phase 3 of the Gutenberg roadmap. So if you missed it, if you want to go back to YouTube and look at our WordPress 6.0 recap, in the beginning of that, we talked a bit about these phases of what's happening with WordPress. So phase 3 is kind of the future one, and phase 3 is really more around collaboration. We're still kind of in this phase 2, which is where these improvements to the block editor, making editing, that's where full site editing comes in phase 2. So they're starting to think beyond phase 2, which is good. So we'll see more to come on this, and obviously we can cover, if this becomes a significant release, we can cover this more in the future. That was all I really saw, Peter. I don't know if you saw any other like news things, or I didn't really even see WordCamps right now. There's really nothing going on. It's a bit quiet.
No, they're getting, the big one coming up, of course, is WordCamp US, which is coming up in September.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's in San Diego. That's sold out in like an hour or something. Partly because there's a lot less tickets being sold because there's still COVID protocols to pay attention to and all. But again, it's one of those things where we're hoping that some of the stuff is streamed. WordCamp Europe did a great job of doing some live streaming for anybody who was interested enough to do that. And of course, you miss all the what they call the hallway chats and things like that. But we'll see how that goes. I wouldn't have the means to fly to San Diego for a couple of days to go to WordCamp anyway, so I'm hoping that there's some online component. But yeah, that's that. In terms of an event I'm looking forward to, it doesn't come until November, but it's the accessibility days, and it was they didn't do it the last year. I think they did it in 2020, and it was actually one of the best online WordPress events that I attended, because it was a lot of, not only was it about accessibility, but it was a lot of practical things. So that's one, but we'll talk about that in the coming months. But that's one that they're saying it is going to happen this year, so I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. And I don't know if you had I closed the slides, but do you have a tool or plugin that you want to?
You know what? I didn't, but I'll show you a couple of ones that I had to use this week for something. That's always, sometimes you run into the. Yeah, let me share.
I gotta make you 1 second here.
Okay.
Now you can. I'm gonna try now. Yep.
Okay, so one of the tools that I needed to use, you can see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, was this is accessibility day coming up. I was working with somebody and I was working on a project and it was looking great for me, but the person that I was doing it for was getting a completely different page. And it was an interesting, one of those things going, it looks good for me, what's going on for you? And there's a lot of different ways to do it, but one of the just kind of the random tools, something called GeoPeeker. It gives you a chance to see how the site appears from other places. And while this does it from other countries, it's useful for me sometimes to say, well, what is the rest of the world? What are people who are not on my wireless network seeing? So, this is like, if we look at the site we were looking at, our site, what is it? Build, can't even remember this one. So this is the website that we've been using in our project. If I look at that here in GeoPeeker and do a quick search, it's limited, but if you take a look at it, you'll get screens showing you what the site looks like from different places, so that you can see, okay, my homepage is matching, or there's something going on. And in fact, in this case, there was something we can show, but there's something that happens when you migrate a site or do some things where sometimes the permalinks, the links don't work correctly. And the one little trick is to go back into your permalinks. I can even show you this right now, and resave them. So this is already just one of those little tidbits of when you have a website and you look under settings and then permalinks, and the permalinks are basically how the links appear on your website. So you can show them by title, show them by blog post by date. But if everything's working the way you want, is set up the way you want, but something still isn't working, it may be as simple as going into here and just hitting save changes again. It's this magic little one of those little, did you turn it off and back on again kind of thing. So sometimes when and that was exactly the case with the website. I literally had to just go and hit save changes to the permalinks. But I realized by using GeoPeeker or, and there's a number of other tools. And I'll show you two other real quick. I often show this one. This for anybody new. The WP theme detector will tell you a lot about what's on the website. But there's another website for basically anything. I don't know if we've talked about BuiltWith, but builtwith.com is a great little tool to also, you pull up builtwith.com, and then it tells you basically, a whole lot of detail about it. The site's running on WordPress, what type of server, and just little facts about it. So every once in a while you're trying to say, well, what did they use, or are they using WordPress? And you can use the WP theme detector here, and it'll tell you whether you're using WordPress. For anyone who hasn't seen that, you just put in the website address, and it'll tell you, yes, it's a WordPress site. They're using this theme if they could figure it out, and even here are the plugins that they're using. But if you find out that it's not a WordPress site, you might want to go to the BuiltWith and find out, oh, they're doing it on Wix or custom or whatever. And this is telling us that we're using the Cadence theme, and here's some of the blocks that it found and so on. It didn't find all our plugins. We don't have too many loaded. But these are all little tools for when you need to kind of pull back the curtain or see what's going on with your site or somebody else's site. So
yeah,
I had to use these today to try to troubleshoot that one problem, and it was just that weird resave the permalinks.
Yeah, that one's like it flushes them basically, and then makes it kind of resets them. Yeah, the BuiltWith, that's that tool that you recommended to me, Peter, the one that I use as well. I know that's built into that Chrome tool as well, which is really nice.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of Chrome extensions. We could do a whole 2-hour thing on all the Chrome extensions that you can use for website building to help you with the different things, including the stuff that we've added with the Hoverify, for example, which is a paid one. Yeah. Hoverify, by the way, has a AppSumo deal right now going on. Anybody has ever
should throw that into our Facebook page. Yeah.
I used to use Hover AppSumo a little bit too much and have purchased
All
any
this
number
software
of
you never
things.
use.
The software you never use, and I've got all kinds of that stuff. So, and I actually purchased this directly a while back, but the Hoverify is a great tool which loads in your Chrome as an extension that allows you to do all kinds of looking at a site and the images and the colors and the fonts and things like that, and I get a peek on that. So
Peter, if you're looking at cool things, I found a cool thing recently.
yeah,
Would you go to wheregoes.com? I'm going to put it in the chat. WHERE, wheregoes.com.
Yep.
If you get a tiny URL or a bit.ly thing in a link or spam,
that's
if
great.
you put it in here, it'll show you where it's going without going there.
Yep.
And there's a new spam out that looks almost exactly like a Gravity Forms submission.
Yeah.
And the text at the top says, great website. It looks like it's coming from the web developer to the client who owns the website. And it says, click here and add your site to SEO. And it's got a bit.ly link.
Yeah.
So if you ever get one, you should bookmark this little page because it'll tell you where that's going to go. I just saw it recently. I thought it would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll tell you that is very helpful, Sue, and we can talk anytime during this call if anybody wants to, again, learn a little bit more about the types of spam and phishing attacks that are out there. I get things in email.
And I've been talking privately with Judith Ann. We've been chatting in the background.
Mhm.
She mentioned that she had a problem with the site, and I was going, I got the same thing going on with one of my sites.
Okay.
She's getting a lot of people. You can tell them, Judith Ann. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you. I have Loginizer security on my site.
Yep.
So I'm getting between 150 to 200 per day of people who have tried to log in onto my site.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing it like every minute and a half, 2 minutes. It's coming up regularly, and they're not getting into my site that I know of, but it is totally annoying, absolutely annoying.
Yeah, so that's a great example. So Loginizer, Ray, are we okay to just start jumping into things?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, perfect.
We haven't actually introduced ourselves, but we can do that later.
We know who you are.
So Loginizer is, I got to update. This is what you get for anybody who's new when you haven't updated your plugins in a little while. You go under WordPress plugins, your installed plugins, and you can see which ones are installed. I know we have some new people kind of looking at, and I hope we folks speak up about. I saw some folks might be confused about some of the things that they're dealing with. Maybe we can help clarify. Sometimes it's just a really quick answer, so please feel free to ask. So here's our plugin, some of the ones. This is our demo site that we've been working on, and there are, if you wanted to add a plugin, and there's a free plugin that Judith Ann was talking about called Loginizer. And we'll quickly install it, because one of the things, and I had to do this, I have this one site that they're getting bombarded with the inquiries. There are a lot of different security plugins that can be used, or even services. I use something called Patch Stack that allows some of the blocking of more of those brute attacks where they're trying to get onto your website, doing a search. And this is the whole conversation about, try not to have a user called admin, try not to have a password called password123, those types of things, because these are what these brute force login tools are trying to use. So Loginizer has some settings that you're getting hit all the time, but one of the issues is also saying how much do you want to be told about that. So you can manage something like some of that in in Loganizer. So if you want to manage that under Loganizer and then brute force, here's where you can set, okay, maximum, max retries. So this is all in the plugin for anyone new. This is the plugin is you load this code that extends, adds functionality to your website. This Loganizer is specifically about logging in and managing things like the brute attacks. And you can say, okay, how many times you want to allow someone to retry. When they fail for 3 times, lock them out for 15 minutes. After max counts of max lockouts of 5, lock them out for 24 hours. How many? I brought this down to 2 half hour, 2 lockouts. Now that's one of the first things. Is just for me.
Do you have the pro version of Loganizer?
I do not. Yeah.
So in the menu, it's talking about 2-factor and recapture. Are those like you got to, if you want it, you got to go buy it? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, exactly. And there are other security. We did a while back. We did a security meetup talking about kind of some of those different options. Like I said, I've been using something called Patch Stack, but I got on an AppSumo deal way back when and this is kind of a security tool that sits in between. So it's a third-party service where things are kind of filtered through them. But one of the other things you can do, and this is what I've done, and that's nice about Loganizer in the free version, there are some other security things where it's part of the paid, where you can start even blocking IP addresses. I was looking for the one where I could even block countries. I don't, the websites that I was working with,
IP, blocking an IP used to be really great. It was like the wonderful thing. However, they're going through proxy servers and they're hitting them, which means that blocking an IP isn't something you should spend a lot of time with.
Right.
In my experience, it's good, but it's got to be a stupid kid who's going to use the same IP address.
Yeah.
But the thing we've found is that we can't protect ourselves from these attacks. The brute force attacks are good. The tools against them are good.
Yeah.
What we found is just the safest way to put your site together is to put 2-factor authentication on it.
Yeah.
And require it for everybody. And unless you've got a membership site, that's a whole nother thing. But if it's a regular website, there's free 2-factor things. They're bundled in some other plugins. Yeah. But if that website is important to you, then maybe you have to break down, spend a little money on some of those tools and get a pro version of one of the protection tools.
If I can just chime in a little bit here too. So back to so Judith Ann, at least most of the time I've seen, like, when you see that number of attacks, in general it's not a person doing it. Obviously, it's it's a bot or some script or something that's probing not just your site, but most likely lots of sites that just kind of randomly going through it and trying to get into them. So I guess the good news is that Loganizer is doing its job. It really is preventing them from logging in. Peter's bringing up WordFence, which also has its own type of, there's other security plugins. Sue had mentioned iTheme security. So I think the good news is you have a security plugin, whether it's Loganizer or one of these other ones, you want one of those on your site because they all, the good ones offer that kind of protection. I think the thing you may want to look at is some of the settings that Peter was showing in terms of, if you just have the default settings, maybe you want to restrict that more. I've had some sites where I turn that thing on, like if it's not, I'm the only person who should be logging in. So if it's not me, I lock it off for days. I turn that up as much as I can. And that generally seems to like reduce the amount of kind of, bad logins over time, but.
I've got one other tool that we use, and it only works if you're running a child theme. Now, the Cadence people say you don't need to run a child theme. I'm old school. I run child themes.
Okay.
And there's some functions that I've got put together that hide the author's name. So you can't find anybody's username.
Yes.
So you can find usernames in weird places like sitemaps and other places. It's not hard.
Yeah.
But I wrote some, I tweaked some, I've got them, I'm happy to share them. But usually we put them in the functions file on a child theme. I don't know, casual users don't usually use child themes, but that could be a whole nother topic for another night. But I'm happy to share them if anybody wants them.
Yeah.
And then there's Cloudflare. Then there's
Oh, yeah.
Cloudflare.
Yeah.
Cloudflare used to have for free. I think they've changed. I haven't used Cloudflare in a little while, but Cloudflare used to have that ability to block by countries. But it's kind of like what you said, Sue, that now it's so easy to mask what country you're coming from that it doesn't seem like that's very effective either. I know, Peter, you'd also showed when you're looking for plugins. I mean, these are all just, again, belts and suspenders kind of things. There's another way to just basically hide your login page, so it's not the usual /admin or /login. You can try doing that too. It's just a different page URL instead.
I did that for years, and now they're telling me, nah, it doesn't matter. They can find that too.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you. Okay, so if we were to talk about, the order in doing things, the first thing is, use good usernames. Don't have everybody be an admin. I may have to change this, Ray, because I'm exposing, what our usernames are.
Yeah.
But, even having this, so a lot of times, as you were saying, Sue, the blog name is often an author name and all. You could use completely, different and not related to anything usernames. Don't have everybody in your company, organization, whatever, be an admin. That's a bad thing. Use strong passwords. And then, so that's kind of the basic. And then from there, you can look at these plugins, these other services, the two-factor authentication. There's a lot of things. Yeah, I've used the hide login. I've backed off on that. But even some of those tools and pro tools then also have two-factor authorization built in. There's some free ones. WordFence is probably a really good, again, for somebody who's kind of at the beginning stage. For me, WordFence has always been, and anybody, correct me if you have a different perspective on it, but it is a good plugin for general first level. And then Judith Ann, there's one other thing is don't ask for the notifications. Quite honestly, you could look back and find out the websites, there's been attempts that are huge numbers of attempts, and it's like, yeah, it happens, and I've got enough set up, don't notify me anymore, because that was happening to me on some sites where it was just like, they're not getting in, but I'm constantly being told about people trying. And sometimes you just don't need to see that either. Just go in and check log files every once in a while. So that's
Peter, I have another question. If I use a two-factor, does that mean that every time somebody tries to get in, my cell phone's going to buzz?
No.
Yeah, right.
No.
So which one are you using again?
We're an iThemes family, and two factors included. The way people are used to two-factor working is you try to log into your bank or your health chart or whatever, they send you or text you a code in plain text, which is not really the most secure thing on the planet.
Right.
Anyway, there are some tools called authenticators. They're apps you put on your phone.
Yeah.
And the way it works is when you want to log in, you use your username and password, and then it says, put in your 6-digit authentication code. You open your phone, you go to your authenticator, and every 90 seconds or so, it generates a new 6-digit code. And you type it in. WordPress powers so many websites, they couldn't possibly afford to pay for those text messages. So you get yourself an authenticator. Google Authenticator is a great one. And recently, Google started backing it up. So if you change phones, lost your phone, up until a couple of months ago, I would never have recommended Google, because as soon as you lose your phone, you lose all your authentications.
Yeah.
Now you can back it up. I buy LastPass. LastPass, it's like $30 a year. If you don't have a password manager, go buy one, because if you're going to be active on the web, I have little tolerance for people who won't spend a couple of dollars on things that are critical. There's two that are very well known. One is LastPass, the other is 1Password. They're both good. LastPass has an authenticator for my 30-something dollars a year. I get it. I have 421 authentications because we build websites.
Yeah.
It's also a place that my family can share the Hulu login and the Netflix login and all those other things that you may have. I'd suggest you look at it. They do have sales once in a while where it's $24 a year. And my authenticator is, and if I change phones, which I did like a month ago, all I had to do was log into LastPass and all my authentications were there. So when you log into an authenticated site, you go to the same thing, username and password, and then the next box pops up and it says, what's your what's your 6-digit code? You open your authenticator, you type it in. It's one more step. It's a pain in the neck. And it's probably the single best way to keep hackers out of your site. It's not like I have an opinion on this.
What it won't do, and again, this is, I don't think you ever prevent, it won't prevent those 100, 200 a day invalid people trying to get your site. I mean, that unfortunately is still,
Right.
But it's going to say, hey, if you really want to get through as an admin, you're throwing these additional layers in front of them.
I just sent a support ticket to iThemes today. They know me. We're on the first name basis with my support tickets. And I said, how do I ban? They will ban anybody trying to log in as admin. That's a checkbox you can choose. Nobody should ever have the username of admin. It's the first thing you kill on the website.
That's right.
But I've got somebody trying to log in a couple hundred times today with a username that's wrong. It's not a username, but it's a name affiliated with the company that owned the website.
Yeah.
So they know something. And I'm trying to figure out if iThemes can show me or build it into their thing to block a username, to ban a username other than admin that comes with the package. But we'll see what they say. But when Judith Ann was talking about it, I was going, I've got the same darn thing going on.
Yeah.
And I think WordFence, if I remember, WordFence also in its security settings too, I think it has some things in terms of also preventing certain, you can put that list of usernames, you won't even let people put that into, you can put like a list of them as well, so.
The place that usernames show up is in blog posts. And you can find a username from blog posts. So we always turn our blog post author over to a user that has like no permissions and a 40-word password.
Yeah, there you go.
Never have to log in as them. We just tell them that's the author.
Yeah.
Hey, just maybe for the sake of time, as hopefully Judith Ann, we gave you some ideas of things to look at. So it was awesome. This is a lot of good stuff in here.
We hit the ground running on that one.
You know, looking at some of the other ones just from the chat. Jamie C, I don't know if you mentioned in the chat about you had a site upgrade through a marketing company. There are many confusing things that came up. We love to hear confusing things. If you're willing to share, what's the confusion?
I am willing to share. So I can share the website too, if that helps any.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We'd love
that here and share with.
Sure.
Let me just grab the site quickly. So essentially, I'm a contractor for the company and I help them out with social media and putting together their newsletter through Constant Contact. I do not have anything to do with the back end website stuff.
Okay.
So they hired a marketing company to revamp it, and they were using WordPress. And okay, that's the link in the chat. And then they kind of disappeared and didn't really help us with any questions that we had afterwards. So for example, we had a heck of a time trying to figure out how to change the ACC spotlight that you see there. It was recently, I think up until today, it was showing old content because they didn't tell us how to fix it. It looks like the director has figured that out, which is really great.
Good.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just, it's good that something got fixed at least, or figured out. Sometimes it's,
Oh, well, yeah, I was gonna say, Peter's
some
going
steps.
exactly to the tool that we showed earlier. I think because, you know, what I typically do, and I think that's why we like doing these things live, is I think we want to, Sue sees it already, it's an Elementor site. One of the first things we like to do is kind of get a lay of the technology, and that's like using these tools to say, how is this built? Because as you start looking at parts of the site, certain pieces may be part of the theme, the WordPress theme. Maybe that's where something needs to be changed. There could be custom code or a child theme. There could be plugins that are doing certain parts of it. So that's always a challenge without having access to the back end of a site. It's, you know, telling you, we're telling somebody, hey, here's where you should focus your attention on. So let's see, Peter, did you run the theme detector on it?
Yeah.
I know it's Elementor
So
too, but yeah.
it's a child of Loquet, author Gloria Themes. So theme forest original.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
we all
on the
cringe when we
challenge.
have theme forest.
And
Yeah.
none of this means anything at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll explain it to you as best we can. So the first thing is, and
But it's a child theme.
yeah, but it's a child. So there's a theme called Loquet right here. So the way WordPress works is that every WordPress site has to have at least one theme attached to that site. A theme, and it's basic. It's kind of the, you know, how does something look, and what is some of the basic functionality that might be built into the sort of that first level of extending the WordPress platform into kind of the next thing. Now, a lot of themes are developed and created to have a certain look to it and all, but there's a lot of controls. So, and we kind of, when we saw theme forest is a place where you can go out and buy thousands and thousands of different themes. Many of them, you know, they may be coded great, coded not so great, everything in between, old, that type of thing. So that's sort of that first level. Then there's something called the child theme, which is the thing that sits kind of on top of the theme, but uses the theme and then might add either some additional functionality. Or may not even do anything, but there's often code that's attached to it, and what that allows somebody to do is like update their theme, but then anything that they've customized doesn't get touched because the child theme is owned by the website owner, not and themes get updated. Hopefully themes get updated where code is changed, and if you've gone and changed some of the actual, you know, code behind that theme, it'll get overwritten and update. That's why a child theme exists. What that might tell us too is, and I get this, Ray, Sue, you inherit a website, and one of the first things you have to do is start deconstructing it. And it can be a challenge sometimes to find out where did they do this, and find out that there was some developer sometime in the past history of the site that might have put something hard-coded into a child theme, or you know, things like that. So that's the type of thing we'll look at.
Okay.
But we also look to see, okay, so after the theme, where it came from, what plugins are they using? The plugins being those things that then add even greater functionality to the website. And we're looking at, so Smashballoon, a social photo feed, is usually used for Instagram, your Instagram feed. So if we come over to the website, probably somewhere there's an Instagram feed coming through, maybe on the sub page.
I don't think there is. There's a link that if you scroll up to the top and look on the top right, there's a little Instagram icon, but I don't believe our Instagram feed is coming through on the website.
Yeah, so that's, you know, and there's an example where somebody might have a plugin installed that they then never either used and turned off,
Right.
or, and then that's when we clean up websites and we go, well, they're not actually using, even though they've added this plugin, they're not actually using,
And
that
that's often the
plugin.
case, like especially for something like a theme. So Theme Forest, like Peter was saying, it's just a marketplace where people can buy WordPress themes. A lot of those themes, they come pre-packaged with a certain number of plugins, because I put a link in the chat as well to this. The company that created the theme is this, what was it called again? The Gloria themes. So this particular theme looks like it was something created for museums and other types of, here we go, museum, history, art gallery. So it's kind of a general purpose theme, although it is slightly focused on those areas, like the arts and entertainment. So it may come preloaded with all these other plugins, but as Peter was saying, because they don't know what you're going to build with it, what kind of website. But there's probably a lot of things in there that maybe just aren't being used.
Yeah.
Right. And since it's an arts and cultural nonprofit, I'm assuming that's why they picked this one.
Yeah.
I will just say that we had some communication issues with the company that did this, and there was just a lot of confusion and a lot of pushback. So we didn't always get answers to questions. For example, if you click on the calendar for click on events and then see the calendar, this is not how we wanted it to be.
That's the events calendar.
Yes.
And it's one of their 3 or 4 default settings. And if you're a 501c3 nonprofit, you can get the Events Calendar Pro for free. And then you can get a real developer to help you make it. I mean, you can call Ray or Peter. I bet you they know how to do this, but they can make that look. It's one little click to change this from a list view, from a month view, which looks like Google Calendar, to a list view.
It just, we had to fight very hard to get the color on the date, the number.
I just hate to see this, but this is not the first time I've seen something like this, where a client gets some kind of firm to help them and they don't get what they want. It's like a fight instead of a working together. I hate to see this, but boy, I've seen a lot of it in the last like 2-3 months.
Unfortunately, that was the experience that we had as well. And, another issue that we have is when you go back onto the calendar, there's an event there that it looks as though it's running for 2 weeks straight. It's really not. However, if you want, like the Cinderella event right there, if you want to add in the Cinderella event, and let's say it runs for 2 weeks, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have to add in an individual event for each Friday, each Saturday, and each Sunday.
That's because you don't have the pro version, which allows recurring events.
That's right.
I put the link into the chat for where you apply for the free version if you're a nonprofit.
Oh, thank you so much.
I had to have a personal meeting with the events calendar people and yell at them. But it turns out that 2 of their top end developer, the real geeky guys, and I use geek as a compliment, they run the meetup where I live.
Okay.
And I went and talked to them, and they had their sales guy call me, and I yelled at him, and we got that program back.
Nice.
So go apply for it, and you'll get like a 20-year license for it or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, and our feedback is the events calendar is definitely one of the best events calendar plugins out there. I don't know. I assume you agree, Ray.
Yeah, absolutely.
It used to be it's funny. Do you remember the all-in-one event calendar?
God, yes.
Yeah, and that was one that I think they've gone by the wayside finally.
And then you heard what happened to the MEC calendar, the Modern Events Calendar.
Yeah, they had
WordPress drama.
Yeah.
Somebody went to the WordPress.org support, ask a question on the free version. They asked the user for their username and password in public. They had a big fight with WordPress. MEC, Modern Events Calendar, got very snippy, and WordPress banned their plugin. They dropped out of WordPress.org. WordPress drama. But if you go to webnews.net, WEBNUS.net, it'll tell you when you look on their products, WEBNUS. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's webnus.net. And when you go to their products in the menu at the top, go to plugins and look for the calendar light version, which is the free version, second one down. And it will show you, yes, you can still get it, but you have to download it. And they're not, your WordPress dashboard won't tell you that it's due for an update. So you have to download it and install it. I can't tell you, it's on almost 1 million websites.
Yeah.
And I've got multiples of them.
So,
And
so the
it's pain.
events, so the events calendar, the one that Jamie's on
Is
that
much
site,
better.
it's much better. The
Modern trend.
free version is actually quite good for limited
is.
purposes. But yeah, once you start getting into things like you said of recurring events, that's a big one. There's just a lot of other things in the pro version that in styling too. I think it has a little bit easier styling than the free version does.
They've made that better, but there's a plugin you can get for free that lets you style it looking at it. It's a lot more intuitive. You don't have to write any CSS. And it's a clunky plugin, but it works. I'm not a fan of, I told the guys at Modern Tribe that if they're going to send me the events calendar, at least they can do is put some color choices in there so I can match my theme.
Yeah, I mean, we were hoping for something a bit more dynamic, and it used to, in the old site, it was more colorful and more vibrant and not so just drab. But one of the biggest issues we have, which thankfully they did fix this one, it defaulted to a UK calendar, like
Oh God.
Monday as the first day. And I said, but we're US based. They said they all start with Sunday. So we had to push real hard for that. I'm glad that they were able to figure that out, because for me, that was non-negotiable. Because I said, we're just going to assume it's Sunday, not Monday.
Peter can, or Ray, whoever's got the screen, can you go back to your site, the animal shelter, and go to settings and go to general?
Yeah, I was gonna just do the same thing, right? So
this is where you fix that.
That's a one-click. That's a one-click thing.
What day does your week start on? And it should be Sunday.
Oh my goodness,
that was it.
Wow, that's.
Then when you look at the time zones, Peter, see he's got New York. That's the closest city we have to Eastern time zone.
Right.
But if you scroll all the way down those choices and you start to see UTC times, they're going to be way at the bottom. Don't ever use them. Just pick New York or whatever is closest to where you live. That's Eastern or your time zone. I'm an Eastern time zone person. So that's fixed. God, that's in our starter site.
Oh my God. I cannot believe how easy that fix was, because wow, it took them days to figure it out. And at first they told us it couldn't be done.
You hired the wrong company.
Yeah, we figured that one out way too late in the game.
That's a shame. I'm sorry, but the site looks nice.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see Gene.
Yeah, if we take we'll take a few more minutes. If we take a look at kind of some of the tools that are used to build this, and there's some things that, again, probably like Slider Revolution, an infamous plugin that comes with a lot of theme forest websites. There's a pro version. If you have a slider anywhere, and by the way, if you have a slider, always consider, do you really need the slider? Does it offer you advantage? And on your homepage, I don't see one, which is, oh no, there it is.
Was it on top? Yeah, it's on the top.
Yeah, that's why they
The
couldn't
arrow
find,
section.
that's why they couldn't find out where to edit that gray
Because it was
box.
So
right.
It's
when you-
part of the slider, I betcha.
Yeah, because so
that refers to the pictures that change.
Yeah,
yes, so your install of WordPress with its theme and child theme has a number of plugins, many that were added by whoever initially developed, or even the developers you have now. If you ask for something, that might come up with a plugin that could help. One of the plugins that's installed, and I'm seeing this easily. We can look at the site and look at the code, but this tool, WP Theme Detector, my go-to tool for looking at what's there. I can see all these things loaded. One of the things loaded is Slider Revolution. Slider Revolution exists to give this kind of scrolling set of images. You know, this big image here is one of them. This big image here that it just changed. That's Slider Revolution. Most likely, it could be that they got Slider Revolution and using another slider tool. But also built into it is things like Slider Revolution as a plugin has an overlay section where you can have kind of the static information. So that idea of finding where that is, while you might be going, oh, I want to go into my WordPress site, and is it a page? Is it a post? Let me show the page. It's that kind of information is literally, I'll call it hidden. It's not the right word, but it's managed potentially within, and we don't have a Slider Revolution menu choice. And in that, I used Slider Revolution years ago.
Jamie, I'm not trying to get you to spend more money, but a good developer with Elementor could easily rip that slider out and put in something that was sensible and wasn't such. If you think your site is slow, that's one reason.
Yeah,
and it's also not accessible.
I'm very limited with what I can do because I'm literally just a contractor for them that does their mail newsletters. So the woman that you see on the right, that's Diane, the woman I report to.
Yeah.
I might have to ask her if she's interested in coming to this. And then I think I was very polite about the company that helped us out with the website. However, if you tell her I said anything mean, I will deny it until my
It's being recorded. We'll scrub this part. Don't show her this.
Jamie,
scrub this part.
Is the organization management happy with the site, or are they just glad the build is over?
They were not pleased. It's
okay. We really, this is being recorded. We should probably just not talk about it.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, because if she sees this, we'll go, oh, geez. But suffice it to say, there was just a lot of communication issues and confusion, which I think I'm comfortable saying. And I don't think that's mean to say. You know, there was just a lot of confusion involved in it. And even, for example, with this slider here, you'll see that it starts repeating itself. So, you know, you'll have the picture here and then it stops with that purple line and then it starts the photo again.
Yeah.
That was one of
that's a poorly sized picture.
I
can't figure out how to change that.
Just I'll kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, because I know nonprofits sometimes don't have the luxury necessarily of, like I said, it's built, they have this website, they may not be in a position to rewrite it, you know, from scratch. But I do think where I would say, though, hopefully, Jamie, you see from like attending this session and hopefully other ones in the future, is this process we're kind of going through of, you know, when somebody wants to make a change to a page, it really starts with figuring out where is that, you know, on a page, what built that piece, like that top part, the slider, because Slider Revolution, like you said, unfortunately, it's not a free plugin, so we can't even, I can't even find like a demo to show you, but that's going to have its own set of documentation, its own like editor and things that don't look like the rest of WordPress. It's for that plugin. So when you do find something like that, when you want to, you know, Google, you know, for better or for worse, Revolution Slider and Slider Revolution, those two things, they're used quite a bit on these theme forest sites. So you can find videos and things on YouTube, somebody showing you like how to, you know, make updates to it and all that. So it's not that, you know, it's in a lot of cases, it's overkill, I think, for what most websites really need. Like Sue was saying, now there's things built into modern themes that basically do sliders. You don't need a special plugin for it. So
Yeah. And correct me, I'm not an Elementor user, but I think it's actually using the Elementor slideshow. It's all the code behind it. This is the code.
Or it could be, well,
respected behind, and it looks like it's all. So that goes to show you that the slider revolution could just be turned off. That's one thing, because that adds overhead. And then it's now what I said about it being hidden in the slider revolution. It looks like it's probably an Elementor widget within is a guess. So Elementor is definitely its own way. Elementor is and we know that it's loaded here because we can tell. I'm looking at the theme detector, and Elementor is, I know it's here. It's,
number 4.
but Elementor is what's called a page builder. We did a meetup on page builders, and what the page builder, there you go. What page builders allow you to do is a lot of drag and drop and bringing in all these widgets or elements that have a lot of design control, sometimes animation. You know, all your page layouts are often brought in. You know, with Elementor would bring in heading and sections and things like that. You kind of drag those in. I don't have an example right now, but anyway, the page is being built that way, and in one regard, people, you know, there is this. Okay, for all WordPress people here, there are so many ways to do the same similar things in WordPress, and it can get very confusing. And one of the first things to do is to make sure you understand which tools you're actually using before you go off and look at a tutorial that doesn't seem to match anything that you're doing. Or when somebody says, you know, hey, we'll go to Elementor, and it's like, my site doesn't use Elementor. Or in the Gutenberg block editor, and you're going, my site uses Beaver Builder as a page. But you know, there's and when you start following things, and one of the first things that happens is you go and you start looking at, well, my menu on the left side doesn't look anything like their menu. Well, they might have a different theme with different functions,
Right.
plugins. So it does. Do not feel bad about being confused, because it can be confusing. There's a thousand ways of doing the same thing.
After we rip that site apart,
Yeah.
I wondered if, Jamie, are you having issues with what you have to do because of the site, or was this just to look at the site?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of that will be solved if they are interested in that calendar plugin, because I'm going to have to manually go in and change the Cinderella listing. So essentially, I'm going to have to go in and change the Cinderella listing for each separate event, because
Get the pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna, because otherwise, I mean, we kind of figured it was easiest to just do it that way rather than trying to coach the theater company on how to do it, because it's kind of confusing.
Absolutely.
And so I figured, well, you know what, it's just easier if I fix it, you know. And so we'll have to play with that a little bit. But I think what I will likely end up doing is I will have to ask Diane, because I didn't mention this to Diane. I just kind of clicked attend on a whim, and they figured, you know what, I'll see what it's like, see if it's helpful, see if Diane wants to join. So I will probably ask her if she wants to attend future WordPress meetup.
Yeah.
And then that way I don't have to worry about stepping on toes or,
Right.
You know, she might not have the same vision as me. And so I
Peter,
don't want.
Is the August meetup a summer camp?
It is.
Well, she should come to the August meeting.
And we always say, bring your friends. It's
What
right.
does the summer camp mean?
It's like this.
Oh,
This is the
Yeah,
summer
this,
session.
June, July, and August. Normally we have a full designed, Ray and I, and hopefully other folks, you know, a presentation, whereas these are a little bit more free form.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And we always try to allow for the free form, just part of the discussion anyway.
Yeah.
And if you are a Facebook user, we do have the Hartford WordPress group
Okay.
Facebook page where, you know, we encourage people to ask us questions, and we do our best to try to answer.
Oh, you're gonna get sick of me.
That's okay.
We
No,
like active people. Hey,
that's right.
can we jump, so Jamie, hopefully at least we gave you some ideas, I think, of
Yes,
things to
you've
look
been
at.
amazing. Thank you all so much.
You're welcome.
I was going to, for one slightly different, Nicole has one about finding unused images. Is there any easy way to find unused images and clean them up? That's a good one.
Yeah. Do you have some? I'm gonna.
There's a plugin that says
There-
it does that, but
Yes.
if you want to make a lot of money, build a plugin that does it right.
Okay.
The
I think-
plugin that looks for, I don't remember the name of the plugin, but it's, you better back your site up first
Yeah.
and download all your images from the media library first,
Okay.
because you may have to go back and put some in. But everybody in the, especially if this is a WooCommerce site, don't do this.
It's
And it's a good plugin if you are geeky smart. And if you're not, then you pay somebody to do it.
Let
But
me
as
ask,
far as I know, there's no tool that does it competently and quickly and first time.
let me ask Nicole maybe
there
just
is
more of a context question of why are you looking to find unused images? Is it like a space issue that you're trying to remove things to reduce space, or just why are you finding that?
So I do roundup boards and then I'll update.
Oh, I think I froze.
Fire.
Inspired design talk.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go to shop and then click blog, then any of those, so inside the post,
Mm-hmm.
if you click inside the post, you'll see like a roundup image, and then there'll be product images, because I do a lot of affiliate product marketing. So when I change out, sometimes I catch it, but I know that there are images that are like I've replaced the product because it's like no longer available.
Yeah.
So I just was wondering if there's a way to find those images. I didn't know if it helped with site speed or if it helped in general to get rid of any images that aren't being used.
So it doesn't, it should not affect site speed.
Okay.
It does affect on the back end, potentially a level of site speed if you go into the media library. And by the way, the media library is probably one of the most, that's one of the not controversial, but there's WordPress users who have been said, even while with all the things with upgrades to WordPress, it's like, please fix the media library. It's kind of been the same way for forever. It's not a super friendly area, because you've got, if you go to the media library, if you end up having so many images in the media library that it's gonna take up server space. When you have multiple images, WordPress will create those different sized images, so that takes up, that's more files being put on your server. You know, I mean, and it's relevant. I've got clients might have 10,000 photos in there versus 40. Which, so it's not going to necessarily slow your site down, but it is something where on the back end you're just managing. You have all this extra stuff that it kind of feels good to clean up.
Right.
If you want, go ahead, Ray.
No,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm sorry, 'cause my internet got a little unstable. So Nicole, when you're explaining, can you go back to explaining, if you go back to that page again, Peter? I'm still just trying to understand the thing. So are you trying?
Keep
Yeah,
scrolling.
Were you trying to like remove an image or from this? Like, let's pick
So
an
like
example.
I'll update this image, for example, and then most of the time, because sometimes I'll have it on multiple pages. So
Yeah.
I don't want to just delete the old one when I'm replacing one of the new products on this roundup board.
Okay.
So like I'm nervous sometimes to just delete and replace, because if I have it on another post or another resource page, then I'll, have a blank image because I've deleted it.
Yeah.
So
So I
let's
just didn't
talk
know if
about
there was
that for a
a
second.
way-
'Cause yeah, so I think that's slightly different than where you're going earlier. So if you replace the image just on the single post, if you delete it on this post or even this page, it's not going to remove it from all the other pages that reference it. And that's kind of what the
But
media.
if I click delete in the images, it will.
Yes.
Yeah, so
So
the
if you
media
go to-
library, right. So the media library, think about that. This is the central place that,
Yeah.
in theory, this should show you all the places that this
Yeah.
image is referenced. It doesn't always, for various reasons.
Oh,
but,
really? It shows me where it is in here?
Depends on
No,
how the image was
Ah.
added. No, for all intents and purposes, don't trust it if you see where it tells you that it was, But what you really want to do though is if you just want to delete it from a single post, a blog post, you would go in the post and then delete the image
Yeah,
there.
that I do. I just
Yeah.
didn't know if some of the product images that have like the buy now button underneath it, if those I've replaced out. And I usually try to keep those really small, like 50 or under kg or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
So I try to keep those super small. I understand that you're not supposed to have images over 150 kg.
do you want to show Nicole what the image replacement plugin does?
That's exactly what I was
Yeah.
gonna go look on the
The-
site.
Great
I have-
minds think
yeah,
alike.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was,
Is this the enable media replace one? Is that the one you're talking about?
yeah, which one are you using? Because it's been a while since I pulled that up. So
It's
that's what's up.
media. I think it's media replace.
Yeah. So media replace, just for other folks, so the nice thing about this
Yeah,
plugin, if it's the one I'm thinking of, is this allows you, here's another example too, I've run into quite often, where somebody wants to, let's say, it's a PDF file. So media replace actually lets you replace more than just images. It's any media. So let's say there's
We
a
do
new-
that for a monthly newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful, if you're just like deleting them and uploading a new one, you're breaking all those links that used to reference it. This allows you to actually replace, an existing file, whether it's a PDF or an image, with a new one, and it preserves all those links and those references to it. So you don't have to go back and redo a bunch of things. So, and this one's
So-
free as well.
So if you use that picture on 4 different pages or posts or whatever,
Right.
and then you go in and use the replace media tool, it'll update that picture to the new picture every place you had it.
Why don't you show
Oh,
Peter
that's-
on our site, because we can install it here and replace one of these dogs or something if we have a. Yeah, this is a really handy plugin for that. The other one that originally where I was going to go, but now hearing the context that we're talking about, there are other plugins that can make the media library a bit easier to search and sort and things like that. I'd have to think of them off the top of my head, but
Filebird is one of them.
Filebird, that's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, the one I've used more often. Filebird allows you to create things like folders within the media library. So if you have a bunch of, let's say, documents, you can create subfolders and move things around easier.
And the good thing is all those folders are fake. So
Yeah.
that if you drag pictures into folders, it doesn't change anything on your website.
Right. It's just for
It
organizing
just-
on the back ends. Yeah. So things look like they're tucked away.
So Filebird is a plugin that will organize into folders. I
It'll
can put my-
it'll let you organize it. It'll let you create whatever kind of
Me.
structure you want, but it's free too. It's
in
nice
my
about
in
Filebird.
my images.
Right. You go to the media library, you create folders, like
Okay.
you call one logos, you call one headshots, you call whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then you go look at your pictures and just drag them into folders.
Oh, that would
It doesn't change anything to the link to the picture or anything else. Filebird's pretty popular and it's free. They have a pro version, but there's no reason to buy it.
okay.
Yeah, it's just a nice way, especially the more files you have or different types of media. I used that on a project where they had PDF documents of technical things and other, it was a nice way just to move stuff around so it's not all in one giant list on your media library.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ray,
They may have a demo, Peter, on that site,
On,
on that plugin, on the Filebird plugin.
Yeah. Judith Ann, were you saying something?
yeah, back in 2018, when we started this, I asked you, how can I organize my folders
Oh,
or my pictures? And I finally, maybe a few months ago, downloaded folders, and I can do it on Page and Post and all of my media.
oh.
And I have it pulled up if you want me to share my back end and she can see what it looks like.
yeah, Ray, that's up to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you.
Filebird has 100,000 installs. There are, in Real Media Library, right underneath it, we've used that one a lot. They're both pretty much the same,
Okay.
and they both have excellent support. I've used it on both of them.
And then
Okay.
Judith Ann uses folders, right?
I do.
That's a good one. They're all
Yeah.
good.
And I
and-
love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, so if one of the things for everybody, if you're new to the way plugins work, when you're looking at plugins, the things that add functionality, and if you want to go to add new, what you're looking at is what's called the WordPress repository, and you can go search that. These are all free plugins that are hosted at WordPress.org. And some clues, we've talked about this on kind of what to look for when you're looking at a plugin. Obviously, looking at the description, looking at the screenshots of what does it do, and get an idea of okay, I like these types of screenshots, by the way, that are actual animated GIFs on what happens, and we'll let you show this in a second, Judith Ann. But also, active installations 40,000. Average rating 5 stars from 946 people. Those are high numbers. I was looking at one just a little while ago related to one of our topics, and active installation was 20. That's doesn't mean it's a bad plugin, but it certainly doesn't. It hasn't been doesn't have the luxury of the test of time. Filebird, same type of thing. So whenever you're looking at the plugins, going to this either on .org or through the add plugins, you can get some information as to how many people are using it. You can even look at what the reviews are all about, what people are saying, or if there's any service issues and that type of thing. So that's one of the things to look at. Ray, do you want to let?
Yeah, you should be able to now. Yeah, you should be. Judith Ann, if you want to share your screen. And Bill has a good version it supports too. That's always important. Make sure it's compatible with your version of WordPress.
Okay.
All right, well, this is the folder from the media library, and as you can see,
Oh,
I
you're not
have
sharing.
spent
You're not sharing
hours
yet.
all in there.
Hey, Judith Ann, you're not sharing yet.
It's not?
No.
All right, let's try again.
Well, what are you doing, my dear? Hey, Ray, can you see me?
Yep.
Do you see a green button at the bottom? There you go.
She's got it.
That's number 3.
Oh,
Cat number
what's your
3.
That's number 3. Yeah,
I have to know, what's your kitty's name?
Tasha.
Hi, Tasha.
Say hi, Tasha.
Hi, Tasha. You'll get to meet Toothless eventually.
I think you're sharing the wrong
Yeah.
monitor or window.
Yeah, it was like your email, I think. Here we go.
Is there a
That's
certain
better.
number?
Yep.
There you go.
There you go. You got it. Somebody was asking.
As you can see, I just have, these are on the media, but I can also do the same thing on Pages. Those are
That's
all
nice.
classified, and also the posts are the same way.
There's
And it
a
tells me I have unassigned pages. Also
Here's
tells
a
me,
quota exceeded message. What does that mean?
That's short
This
pixel.
on short pixel.
Yeah.
Yeah, That's for Short Pixel, which is a plugin that I like. In fact, Short Pixel does the media replace plugin. They have a number of media plugins, and the free version gives you a certain number of images that you can compress on a monthly basis. So they'll let you know if you exceed that. They won't compress until next month, or you can buy for a relatively small amount of money credits to compress images.
Hey, Judith Ann, can you show me? I haven't seen this plugin before. I'm actually kind of curious how this would. I see this being good for media, but can you show me what the posts or pages again? Because I think, well, pages more specifically. So you can create folders for pages. I guess what might be confusing about this is normally your pages, you want to see them at least in that hierarchy of child pages underneath. So how does this let you get around that somehow?
I have pages according to categories. So,
Oh, so these are child
I
pages.
can-
Okay.
you know, I can quickly look at what pages I have and if I want to edit or change them.
Interesting. Okay.
So most of them are all from categories that I have.
So
That's new.
yeah, it's similar to putting, you know, your blog posts. So that in differences for anyone else, the difference between pages versus posts. Blog posts or posts will have categories or taxonomies, tags. Also, you know, the date related and author are all kind of part of that blog post versus pages, which are considered more static information. With this, with folders right here, Judith Ann is able to see, to assign a kind of category to a page that you wouldn't normally do. And it's all of this is to help organize. So help organize pages, help organize images by assigning, you know, these categories or folders. And it's all sort of, it's a pseudo folder, right? So it's assigning it this category and then show me everything that I'm putting in the X folder.
And
So
Nicole has asked the magic question, which can open hours of debate: is how many plugins is too many plugins?
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
not to have too many.
I always used to. Well,
Just before we leave this, I like the unassigned pages because here I can look, well, mostly on the media. I can look where I haven't done it. I didn't mean to go there. I can look to see which ones are unassigned and whether or not they're important enough for me to move around and say.
Oh, these are your images that are unassigned?
Yep, also the pages can be unassigned too.
Oh,
but
okay.
but unassigned in this sense, again, this is where I think the terminology is a little confusing. Unassigned means you haven't put them into a folder that you created. Not unassigned is in unattached.
Not into a blog
Yes,
post. They're
it's not a
just
WordPress.
unassigned in a folder.
Yeah, there's other ways.
Okay.
That's the thing. If it's something's unattached, it means it's in your media folder. Because you can drop. That's what's a little confusing about WordPress. You can drop a bunch of files into your media folder. You don't ever have to put them into pages or posts. They can just sit there because everything is weird, but everything you drop into your media folder, for the most part, gets its own URL, so you can share it just through the media folder. You don't have to share it through a post or a page. So
Okay.
this is kind of neat, though. Can we go back, Peter? Can you take back control and just show the enable media replace thing? Thanks, Judith Ann. That's really neat. I never saw that before for post and page. I think blog posts, that would be really interesting, like you said, to maybe organize them even by years or something.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I was just looking to see one of our favorite blogs is the Kinsta blog. Kinsta is a web hosting company, and they have some really good, helpful, updated blog posts. I was looking to see if they had an unused images. There is a plugin for it, but one of the things that probably would help you here. Let me pull this over. And if we add the plugin, I can't remember what we were talking about it. Install plugins.
Yeah, it's activated.
Did I? I'm not even looking at it.
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, it was up above. It's
Oh.
enable media replace is what it's called.
That's it. And so enable media replace.
Yep.
So if we go to our
The media library.
media library and say we wanted to replace this image and saying, you know, it's been a while. Let's see. Where is it, Ray?
Right there. It was right where your mouse was.
Yeah, so you scroll down and it says upload a new file.
Right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So so what this does is allow you to let me check one thing here. Yeah. That's whenever I go to open a file, I just want to make sure it's not opening an area I don't want to open.
Yeah.
You know, my tax files or something like that. But this is just looking at some files and say I wanted to put in that image instead. And it's going to say, okay, you're going to replace this image with this image. And then what are your options?
Yeah.
Replace the file, use the new file name and update all links. So this would help you if you have a standard image, but now you want all of the versions of that image. Maybe you've updated it, the couch image or some message, and you want it to change in all the places that say, you know, your first images with the new one. Then you're saying replace the file, use the new file name, and update all links. Is the way that it kind of goes through everything and then allows you to. And then you just upload it, and it will go through and upload.
One other little feature this does, and this might be too much advanced or in the weeds, but can you scroll down again, Peter? On the right there, this has more to do with caching. So if your website has some caching on the host side, sometimes, or browser side caching, I should say, if a file is the same name, a lot of times, you know, you can go back to a page and you change the picture, but if your browser has a cached version of that image file, you're not going to see that unless you do a hard refresh of your browser. This thing of changing the dates, that's another way to kind of force it so that any browsers that had a cached image will now say, oh, this is a new one because the date has changed. So it'll pull down a new image. So this may not be something to be aware of, but sometimes that's, you know, people run into a problem like, hey, I updated this image. Why am I still seeing the old one? It's usually a caching problem. This is one way to solve it. There's other ways to solve that problem.
Oh, so then in that case, you would replace the date with the current
date. Yeah, replace it with the current date. Because by default, it's going to use the date of the old image. So browsers may look at that and say, you know, oh, it's this exact same file. No, because that's what this thing is doing. It's making it look like it's the same file, although it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like, you know, everything connects to everything. So let me check something real quick. That caching issue is important for really any kind of updates. Because a lot of times you might go in there, update something, and then say, how come it didn't appear on my site? And I'm just going to check to see if this installation.
Are you hosting that locally?
I'm hosting this at Cloudways. So I'm going to add.
I don't think we put any caching. Yeah, I don't think we put any caching on this.
Right, we kind of took a lot of stuff up, but Cloudways is my current web host of choice. And when you have Cloudways, you have access to their caching, and they have a plugin that connects to their caching called Breeze. And then there's ways of, you know, do I want to turn it on or off, purge the cache, things like that. So sometimes you have to come in here, and depending on which caching software you have, you know, how can you just purge the cache, kind of take it out?
Yeah, browser cache is the one that was the
browser. Yeah.
Every good caching plugin should have a little button that says clear the cache or purge the cache now.
Yeah.
And if you go and change some pictures, go ahead and clear the cache.
Okay.
But remember that the caveat with that is that's usually the server side cache it's clearing. Browser side caching is a little different. Browser side caching is still back to if someone downloaded an image and the image hasn't changed, it's the same name and the date is the same. Clearing a cache on a server isn't gonna change that. So
You're right about that. You're absolutely right.
So again, we're showing you things that may not, probably are not on your site, but these are, you know, exposing you to the types of things where your web host may have certain caching tools, and it might not even work through a plugin or something on WordPress, but something you have to do on the site itself. I use another host that has managed hosting, and you go to the website and there's one area in advance where it says purge cache, and you click that button.
Okay.
So, yeah, but that's a thing that if you make changes that don't seem to be applying, that cache can be affecting it. I'm also still going to try to find that maybe on the side here that there are ways of looking at the media file, like, you know, there are kind of right out of the gate, but I wouldn't trust them if you look under, say, your unattached items,
Yeah.
right? But we know that we use those. So attached is a funky thing that happens when you upload a file at the time that you're doing the post. Is that right?
yeah, if you
Yeah.
add it, if you add an image, if you upload it exactly when in a post or a page, then WordPress attaches it. If you
Knows
upload
to
it through the
attach it.
through the media library, then you do it later. It doesn't recognize that. It's WordPress's
And-
media library management is very deficient.
Yeah, because on our sites, we will often cut all the logos, all the fave icons, all the pictures that are going, and just upload them all at once and
Yeah.
stick them in folders. And every single one of them is technically unattached.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put it into the media library and then put it into the,
Yeah.
I think most people, that's a kind of better way to do it too, because then you kind of have more control. So
Yeah.
this is great. We can circle back. I'm looking at other.
Yeah, I'm still going to try this one because it came up recently and I found one. There was one of these, you know, show me where things are being used. And then there was another new plugin that seemed to take it one step further. And I'm absolutely drawing a blank on it right now. So I'm going to try to find that. Were there any more questions in
I
the
saw,
chat?
Gene, I don't know if you really had a question, if this was in your introduction, but the thing about I remember you talked before about migrating a static site to WordPress. How's it going? I think that's what we'd like to hear.
Oh, okay. So I keep trying these, I think I'm trying to do too much at once because I'm trying to make a template page like for meetings. And then I'm trying to put in a plugin that's, I don't know, custom field. And so it's not going well. So,
Yeah. So what's,
anyway, it's too much to talk about today, I think. I mean, like but
I would say, I know we talked about this before, because I think you brought up the question for our last summer session. So a lot of times, especially before you jump into creating custom post types or custom fields, you know, it's step back a little bit and look at, is there a plugin that already does most of, if not all of what you're trying to do? In a lot of cases there are. I mean, basically plugins, you know, behind the scenes, plugin is basically a combination of, there's code, but a lot of times plugins are also using custom fields and, you know, custom post types behind the scenes. So rather than recreating something and then trying to force a plugin into it, I'd say, yeah, maybe you're just not using the right plugin for whatever feature you're looking for.
Yeah.
now on your screen right now, on your left column, you have a thing called pets.
Yep.
How did you do that?
We
Like, I
created
want to have meetings.
Yeah. Okay, so you are kind of in the right ballpark with talking about custom post type, we call it. We used the plugin Advanced Custom Fields. We used the free version for what we did, and we also used, so Advanced Custom Fields allowed us to go in and create the fields that we would want for, in this case, we called it pet details. and we wanted to add, we added breed, age, color, size, when grown, so on and so forth. So that allows us to have specific data holders, places to put specific data that then can be output in a certain way. So advanced custom fields allows us to do that. And then under plugins, we are using another free plugin called Custom Post Type UI. And if we look, what Custom Post UI does is it allows you to basically use those fields to build what looks like a post, but specific to now your new, it's a custom post. And that custom post UI, where it's right here, if I go to there, we have, where is it? It's under post types here. The one that we created is called pets. And the label pets and the single label, that's what controls what's in the menu. And then, it's all these little variables that decide how to show that new custom post type called pets. And then
sorry to interrupt, Peter, for a second, but back to Gene, when you tell us a little bit more though about, like, you want to create something for meetings, but what specifically do you want to do with meetings?
Okay, I'll tell you, whoops. Yes, okay, I unmuted myself. Okay, so what I've done now on my static site, I have JavaScript and a JSON file. And in the JSON file, there's a field meeting name. So it would be, is it the township committee? Is it the recreation committee? Is it the land use board? And then in the field, there would be agenda, minutes, the date of the meeting, the time of the meeting, and anything else, like if it was canceled or if it was a new location. So if it wasn't being held in the municipal building, it would be held in the high school gym, because I expected a lot of people. So I'm looking for, because my clients, I'll call them my clients, cannot handle opening up a JSON file and putting in the correct information. They're missing a comma, or they're putting in double quotes, and you need to have single quotes.
For these meetings, sorry to interrupt, but these meetings themselves, are they meetings that are both in the past and the future that you want to have listed on a site as well, like in a calendar perhaps or something?
Yes, I have a meetings, general meetings page for the year with all the different departments or the different committees.
Yeah.
And it has their list of the meetings, and then there will be a link to the agenda, the minutes, any notes on there. And then also that same JSON file would pick the next 3 upcoming meetings and show that on the front page, which would show, okay, here's the name of the committee that's meeting, here's the date, here's a link to the agenda, and here's any other information, like you want to know it's meeting in a different place, or here's the ordinance is going to be.
The reason I'm just throwing out there is I know you keep using the word meetings. Obviously, these are meetings, but if Peter showed the events calendar, it's not if he's reading my mind. But some of the thing you're talking about is events calendar. The name is generic, and maybe it's poorly. People, I think, tend to associate it with events as in like big, splashy events. But anything could be an event. A meeting could be an event. So there's a lot that's already built into the events calendar, like title. It has its own area here, and then there's customizations we can show later that it's not going to have everything you want, but you can put date, time, location, venue, status. There's a calendar listing here. What this may not have is a place for you to put in those agenda links. There is a place to put it in, though. I mean, you can put it into the body of this, like right there. You can put links right there. Or if you want this a better user experience, that's when you want to probably just create a custom field that you can assign to the event post type. So you're using the plugin for all those other parts of like calendars, scheduling, location, all that's already built into the events calendar. You don't need to build that from scratch. all you're perhaps missing is a field or two here that you can say, let's say you wanted something like, I don't know, agendas is a great one, or Zoom link, something like, although now they allow you to put Zoom
Yeah,
link.
that's a good one. Yeah, Zoom link.
I bet you the pro version, if you get the pro version events calendar, probably has a place for you to put Zoom link, or you could do it in that URL someplace. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I tend to put it in the URL, but you can also, you know, in the body of your, you know.
So
you can just
I
put
would
it
say
here.
maybe
There's-
look,
there's
yeah,
the-
look, you know, look a little bit deeper into what the events calendar may already have most of the skeleton of what you want versus creating something from scratch. So back to our thing, just real quickly about, you asked about the pets.
Mhm.
We created something from scratch, both just to show it as a, you know, a teaching exercise, but also because our pets don't have any special functionality to them, meaning for all intents and purposes, our pets are really no different than showing a blog post. They just have different fields like, you know, breed and age and that kind of stuff. But all we're doing with them in our site is just displaying them, just like a blog roll, you know, or displaying them in a grid or and things like that. Whereas what you're talking about, I was just probing a little bit, like you may be looking for some functionality that if you didn't use the events calendar, you'd have to code all that stuff yourself. So
Yeah.
you're, you know, the plugin may do all that other functionality thing that you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Sue was explaining it, I was gonna ask if like the pro version would be, so you could have recurring things, like if a meeting was the first Tuesday of the month, rather than
Yeah.
having to go, you know, like Google, you just tell the.
I do that on, so I do, again, I do one for the local Chamber of Commerce. I manage their website, and we have meetings that are just on the first Wednesday of the month. So you can do it like that too. So it's not just recurring, you know, daily or weekly, whatever, you can set them up.
So you have recurring events and custom fields.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Oh, custom fields, okay.
yeah, so that I'm sure you can go and simply add, there's a lot of ways to add custom fields to various, you know, the events are actually a custom post type. What you'll find in a lot of plugins that are these specialized ways of adding certain data, they really are just an advanced, well thought out custom post type with all the things connected. So obviously with events or meetings and all, there's date and time and place, and all of those need to relate to each other. And you might be looking, say, now I want to show up in the calendar, show me the next 3 things, you know, on this page. Just, you want to be able to do all of that automatically, so that the only thing you're doing is going in there and managing the events, and then your output is just through the pages that you're using. And the events calendar and Events Calendar Pro have ways to do things. And you could take it even the next step and use some dynamic content tools that allow you to then kind of pick and choose out of it. But that's probably even more than what you need, because the plugin itself is so well crafted for this specific reason. So.
Well, would that be like a query loop where you would say, take
Yes,
the three meetings and display those 3 meetings?
exactly.
But
Yeah.
it'll do it. But this is the thing: you don't need to write the query loop. The plugin will do it for you. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're using the plugin, either the plugin through a short code, that's generally what it is. It's a short code, or you embed something in a post now. I'll have to look at the Events Calendar Pro plugin. I've installed on the site, but when you can drop that short code onto different pages and have the events displayed differently on different pages. You know, that one example we looked at earlier, they just had one events page and everything was displayed there. You can customize the look of the calendar depending on the page. So let's say you had meetings for board of directors versus executive officers or something. You know, if you wanted the executive officers page, WordPress page to only show the meetings for executive officers, you know, you can create a category for your meetings and say executive officer meetings, and then you put a short code in there using, you know, this events calendar, and it would just filter them basically on that. So you wouldn't have to write. This is the thing about, I know you're going from an HTML thing for a lot of WordPress stuff. When you're writing code, stop right there. Something might be wrong. You know, like you almost want to say you don't want to write much code in WordPress these days. Like usually the plugin has something built into it that will do what you need to do.
Yeah, I think that's maybe why I'm having such a hard time, because for 20 years, I've written everything myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's,
now I'm like,
I'm
how
with,
does that happen with these blocks?
well, so my background too, just real quick, was, yeah, I was a software developer for a long time, and that was a big thing to get my head around too. Is WordPress is a content management system, so there's a framework underneath it that basically is doing the presentation for you. It's doing the database calls, all those things that normally, if you're a developer, you'd write that stuff from scratch or use a framework like Java framework or something. So when you don't want to work around WordPress, you want to embrace it and use the power of it, and really think about things in terms of, there's a plugin or maybe a short piece of code you need to do to style something, whatever. But if you're getting into writing a lot of code these days, that should be a red flag of, oops, I'm missing something.
This is just a quick image of the hierarchy. Of course, this is the classic. I don't want to use, I forget which is the right word. The word classic is already a loaded word in WordPress for various reasons, but these files working together in the hierarchy of what works down. And so it's now your code is packaged in all of these Lego building blocks. So then it's like, okay, well, in the database, there's this piece of content, and I'm going to show it this way or that way, or I'm going to add it this way or that way. And once you kind of think of it that way, and then see how plugins are managing that data, yeah, it's you divorce yourself from the code. You can still write code, and a lot of the code that folks do on the custom layouts is things like template design and all. And of course, now they're kind of working towards even less code there with the full site editing model coming in. But in so many cases, somebody's already done the work for you.
Yeah.
And it's fully supported, and you're not alone. And there is an events calendar forum and Facebook page and thousands and thousands of people using it. And that's where there's a lot of advantage there, because then you say you start it, now you have a specific question. There's a whole community of people using what you're using versus, oh, let me go figure out what I coded. And then
Exactly. Yeah. And somebody's probably done what you're trying to do. So if you go to like the events calendar forum, like Peter was saying, say, hey, I'm trying to use this to do something with meetings, I bet you'll find tons of stuff. Be like, yeah, here's how I did that. So, don't start from scratch. Hey, just for the sake of time,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
please keep bringing it. We like to hear the progress of how this is going. Yeah. Frank has a
Maybe I'll have something to look at next time.
That'd be perfect. Hey, Peter, Frank has a quick one.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good for a last one, which is there a way to preview what a changing themes will look like? And yes, there is, as a matter of fact. If you want to show that on ours. So.
Yeah. So if you go under appearance themes, and these are the themes that we have, you can literally do a live preview by clicking the live preview. This is relatively new button. We're looking at this in under the customizer, but this is the live preview. You can see where this particular theme, how it defaults to its heading. The green color is part of that theme. Let me close that. Actually, go back. It's the easiest thing.
And it's like doing a preview of a post. So yeah, it's not really affecting anything.
Of course, do not want to activate or publish. This is a funny one. I've noticed this sometimes. It's like, I just want to get out. Okay.
Oh, they're keeping you in a loop.
There we go.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're looking at, well, one of the things too is I think you could do it, right? So if I wanted to add my favorite themes are Cadence, Astra, and Generate Press. So if I were to add that, oh my gosh, Generate Press, you can even preview it right from the, you could preview it without seeing your content, and you get an idea of what it shows. And I tell you, themes Things will throw you because you'll see a thumbnail and then you'll look at the preview and go, why doesn't it look like that? Well, because the thumbnail is showing you a design page with that content. If I were to install,
And
Now
installing
I
is
should be-
different than activating, like
I'm not going to hit activate,
Right.
but I am going to hit live preview. So now it's on our site and it's talking to our content. And it looks different. And if we look under, you could see how we were using, this may be because of defaults in this theme, the spacing here looks a little wonky. And if we look at a post, and you can navigate through the site. Right now it's defaulting because the theme is showing a sidebar that we're not showing on our site. So
Yeah.
these are the things that you need to change. But you will also get very confused when looking at like changing themes, because again, so much of it is the theme gives you lots of options on your design, but when you're previewing it, you're just seeing the, what would you call it? The default basic layout.
Right. Like
before
this
you
one's
have a
showing
chance
like
to go in.
like this one's showing a sidebar, which you can always probably
Exactly.
adjust in the theme.
The funny thing is I would, yeah, if go to sidebar and I guess you can do
Yeah.
all of this in the preview. Yeah. No sidebars. Oh, I'm
If
in a
you-
blog. All right.
Just a caution is if you're testing this out, then just make sure afterwards, if you decide not to go with this other theme, make sure you remove it afterwards. Don't keep it installed.
Yes.
But Frank's other question
So
while
now-
you're doing that, the kind of the follow-up is a different answer. Frank's follow-up is, what about updating to a newer version of the theme that's currently installed? Can you get a preview of that without updating? No, is my.
No, unless you have a staging site.
He
where
says
you've got
without a
copy of
staging
your-
site, no. And the
Oh,
reason
without
for
a
that,
staging site.
yeah, without a staging site, no. And the reason for that is because when you're installing the same theme, like a new version, it's really putting those files right into that same folder where the current theme is. How this other magic is working, the preview that Peter was showing is you've installed the new theme, but your old one is still there. So you're just previewing, you're kind of flipping a switch temporarily, but you just flip it back. But when you do an update, there are other ways to do rollbacks, but that's for another day because that doesn't always work either. But so short answer.
Now, the main thing is when you are updating a theme, the first thing is if you have custom coding, you want to use either child theme or a code snippet plugin. There's a new one out called CodeBox, where there's code snippets where you're doing your custom code separate from the theme, or you're using a child theme. If you're not doing anything custom, this doesn't necessarily need to apply. But other than things breaking, very rarely are you going to see any kind of dramatic change to the way your site works. But it is possible that things can update and conflict with other things that you have. And yeah, staging sites are really good. Having you could call from a backup. We've had meetups on that.
Yeah.
There are tools like the WP rollback plugin that allows you to roll back certain things and kind of go back to a previous version. So
This WP
backups are your friend no matter what happens.
Yeah, and Frank, what he's showing here, this WP rollback, I said in chat that, this in theory does allow you to roll back to previous versions of plugins. This is really nice for plugins, especially, or themes. Where this doesn't work, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it doesn't work for premium themes or plugins. Or if you're using something that's not in the WordPress repository, let's say like Divi, the Divi page builder theme, you can't roll it back through this. So it depends. If you're using one of these free themes, maybe you can roll it back if if it's in the repository. Probably not though.
Yeah. And you should see if some hosts have staging sites now as part of it that you might not realize you have.
And if you don't have staging, go back to our Let's Build a Site Together series on YouTube. We show you how to install WordPress to a local a local site just on your computer. So what you can do is you can actually download your current site, load it onto your local computer, and then do whatever you want. Play around with themes, updates, everything. You know, that's a good sandbox environment. Hey, I see another cat there. Jamie's cats are out. All
Very good.
right. I see we got like 5 minutes left, so maybe it's a good breaking point or stopping
Yeah.
point here. Yeah, there we go, local. So yeah, go back and take a look at that, or we'd be happy, again, if more people have interest in seeing this, we're happy to go show that again. We could do a live demo of showing how to set up local and download a site. And, you know, I haven't used local in a little while, so I'd be happy to show that. All right, well, again,
No, I
Meat,
think
by the
someone
way.
was saying something. What's that?
Just me to saying meat toothless, by the way, Tasha, meat
Oh,
toothless.
hey, toothless.
And everyone, unimpressed she is.
yeah.
Exactly. And the three of them are somewhere right now. They're up on the tree sleeping. So,
Right.
Together?
oh yeah.
Gracious.
Oh, we got lucky that we introduced the new one a week ago, and it's like she's been living here for months.
Wow, ours quite like true siblings.
Jackson Galaxy is your friend. Do you know who that is?
Yes, and we
Yeah.
have two actually, I say semi-feral, but realistically more feral. And we don't know what to do with them. I wish I could call him in.
Yeah.
The cat whisperer.
All right. That was cat talk at
Yeah.
the closing of the meeting. I like it.
Cat Talk 101.
There you go.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. We hope you come back for another summer session. This is good. I
Yeah.
love
More
bringing your
questions.
topics.
The
Yeah.
Facebook group. If you don't like Facebook, you can comment us in the meetup and meetup.com, which you would have seen here. Yeah, we're happy to help.
And I'll
Thank you
send out
so much.
I'll send out the links with the recordings of all this probably sometime tomorrow, and I'll send out the same links to our Facebook group that you can join as well. So thanks everyone. Hope to see you all again next month. Take care.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Bye.
You're welcome.